أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين بارئ الخلائق أجمعين باعث الأنبياء والمرسلين، ثم الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الخلق وأعز المرسلين حبيب إله العالمين أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعلى آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المنتجبين، سيما بقية الله روحي وأرواح العالمين له الفداء. قال الله الحكيم في محكم كتابه الكريم: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. فبدأ بأوعيتهم قبل وعاء أخيه ثم استخرجها من وعاء أخيه كذلك كدنا ليوسف ما كان ليأخذ أخاه في دين الملك إلا أن يشاء الله. آمنا بالله. صدق الله العلي العظيم. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. Dear Mu'mineen and Mu'minat, brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jumu'ah Mubarakah upon everyone. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make this a blessed day for all of us, an opportunity for us to reflect, purify and return to Him, a sincere return. Inshallah, tawbatan nasuha on this Friday. Friday is an opportunity for us to purify, an opportunity for us to return to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and return to the pure state that He created us, mankind, in. And unfortunately, through different influences, sometimes the society, other times the parents, sometimes our own desires and temptations, through those influences, oftentimes we lose our direction. And it is very important to return to the right path, and that's why we are taught, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala taught us and gave us the best method through which we can ask Him, the best way through which we can ask Him for that purification, which is displayed in Surah Al-Fatiha. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. When we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we are told to recite it in every salat, twice in every wajib salat, we have to recite the surah at least. And that is when we say, Ihdina as-sirat al-mustaqim, that we are asking Him to guide us to the straight path. The path to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, every road, every direction you go in life, we have no choice but to return to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. No matter which direction we go in life, we return to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Nonetheless, one returns with so much regret because they've gone into this analogy I'm using here, we've gone into the dirt road, gotten ourselves muddy and filthy, and now we come to this the merciful God with the beautiful gardens, and we don't deserve them. We don't deserve those gardens that are prepared for al-muttaqeen, u'iddat lil-muttaqeen, the ones who purify, the ones who are pious, the ones who are God conscious. So if we're on the straight path as we go on the journey of life, if we are on the sirat al-mustaqim, we don't get off road, we stay on the straight path, then we would meet our Lord when we are pleased. Otherwise, everybody is going to meet their Lord on the Day of Judgment, and we are not speaking of a physical meeting, inshallah. We all understand that it is impossible for a physical being to meet with the ultimate or the unlimited Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. لَيْسَ كَمِثْلِهِ شَيْءٍ. Nothing is like Him. Though the Quran has reference to certain aspects of the Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's presence in the universe, whether it be through His knowledge or through His mercy or His attributes, or some of the analogies used as His hand referring to His power and His face referring to His presence. All of these things are not referring to an actual face or an actual hand of God, because nothing is like Him. لَيْسَ كَمِثْلِهِ شَيْءٍ. It is important for us to reflect on this journey. It is important for us to constantly come back to the straight path. And I've often, inshallah, I will have this discussion with mu'mineen and mu'minat in the coming weeks, the discussion of coming back to basics. We're facing a world that is progressing very fast, and this very fast progressive world is beautiful in certain areas, but at the same time it is we as human beings, we are losing track of who we are and what we are. And so with this fast progressive world that we're living in, it's very important to return back to basics. You know, in a world that now we're wondering, some people are wondering, are machines going to overtake humans? Are these AIs or the artificial intelligence that is out there, is it going to go overtake humans and so on? In such a world where we are confused about so many things, and you know, in the political arena and in other areas in life, there's so much progression happening. Some of it is very positive, and at the same time some of it may not be as positive as we may think, or some may think, and it's obviously taking humans away from what humanity is. Therefore, in such a world, it's very important to reflect back on the basics, go back to basics. And that this is essentially, the way I see this is essentially as-sirat al-mustaqim, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in every salat commanded the believers, the Muslims, to be reciting and asking, basically, essentially asking, ihdina as-sirat al-mustaqim, guide us to the straight path. Again, there are so many ways in life that we can take, so many paths that we can take. What we need to be concerned with and what we need to focus on is to make sure we're on the right path, we're on the straight path, we're on the best path to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Not a materialistic path, God forbid, and not a path of complete ignorance, of complete absent-mindedness of the reality of who we are and what we are. Some people, in fact, in that absent-mindedness state that they're in, they think, or they attribute, or they limit themselves, their entire being, to their desires. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Holy Quran describes these people. He says, أُولَٰئِكَ يَأْكُلُونَ وَيَتَمَتَّعُونَ كَمَا تَأْكُلُ الْأَنْعَامِ. They are eating and they are seeking pleasures like the animals. You know, and cattle, basically. Cows, sheep, goats, you look at them in terms of the physical aspects, they may be even more advanced than some of us. Yeah, they can run faster than us, they're way more powerful physically than us. In some regards, for some people, they say, you know, Fulan is a man, he has, you know, in certain regards, they're more men than men are. Yeah, and I don't want to get into the details. If we look at the physical being of an animal versus a human, animals would have more capabilities, more abilities, more powers than many of us humans. Therefore, what makes us human is what we need to focus on, not seek all sorts of pleasures and desires and just look for, you know, what we can eat and how we can fulfill our desires, certain desires that we may have. We cannot limit ourselves to those. We have to recognize ourselves as the intelligent and the spiritual being that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created insan. He honored insan. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala honored insan when He put the ruh into insan. He says, فَإِذَا سَوَّيْتُهُ وَنَفَخْتُ فِيهِ مِنْ رُوحِي فَقَعُوا لَهُ سَاجِدِينَ. He says, when I complete him, perfect him, the being, the insan, and then I put this ruh that belongs to me, Everything belongs to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Here they say tashrifiyya. In other words, God is honoring insan. And in other ayah he clarifies that. He says, وَلَقَدْ كَرَّمْنَا بَنِي آدَمَ. We have certainly honored the children of Adam. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala honored you and I, and that is the insan that we should be honoring within ourselves. Not have pride for our physical existence, physical presence. If we want to compete in this world, even in this world, you want to compete over beautiful attributes of humanity. Who is more kind? Who is more forgiving? Who is more generous? Who is more giving? Who is more loving? All the attributes of insan compete. If you want to be happy and pleased with yourself, I don't like the term proud about yourself, but if you want to be somehow pleased about something that you have done, it should be about those attributes. I have given. And believe me, my dear brothers and sisters, Jum'ah, we often remind mu'mineen and mu'minat about sadaqat and charity. It's a day that everything is multiplied, good deeds as well as, God forbid, the evil acts. Wal-'ayadu billah. We seek refuge to Him from those acts. In terms of sadaqat, giving charity, I have given this example to many mu'mineen and mu'minat, many of my dear brothers and sisters. Try giving an amount of money in charity and then compare that exact same amount to anything else you could have spent that money on. You will not find anything that would give you as much pleasure and happiness as much as charity. $100, $1,000, depends on your status. $10, $1 million, I don't know. Whatever your finances allow you, you give that amount in sadaqat versus you give that amount in anything else. You will never find anything that would give you as much pleasure and happiness as when you give it for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Being generous and giving is a human characteristic that we would admire within ourselves. All of these characteristics are what we need to focus on. All of these characteristics are what make us human beings. These are the basics. Oftentimes we are told to remind ourselves and others, mu'mineen and mu'minat, of those attributes and characteristics. Some have asked me, and they bring it up often, that we always speak about the same thing, being charitable, giving. And sometimes they think it's part of the masajid, or the masajid of the followers of Ahlul Bayt, for example, that we always talk about giving and being charitable, or not harming others and not backbiting others, and certain topics that come up very frequently, or reconciling with mu'mineen and mu'minat. We often speak about those topics. Now some criticize, some question, and they say, why is it always about the same thing? I tell mu'mineen and mu'minat, first of all, let's graduate from that, and then we can go to the next topic. Let's make sure that we have graduated from the topic of backbiting. So we're not backbiting each other. We have graduated from the topic of loving and kindness. So we love each other and we're kind towards each other, forgiving and so on. And we've graduated of the topic of giving and being charitable. So we're really generous, and none of us are withholding when we can give. Let's graduate from that and then move on to the next level and of spirituality and so on. That is one issue. The other issue is the fact that these are the basics of humanity. Again, when we say back to basics, these are the basic things. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Holy Quran repeats it again and again. أَقِيمُوا الصَّلَاةَ وَآتُوا الزَّكَاةَ أَقِيمُوا الصَّلَاةَ وَآتُوا الزَّكَاةَ. Again and again, establish prayers, give your charity, pay your charity, pay the alms, purify your wealth. Often he repeats it. Why? Because this is the basic. These are the basics. As human beings, if we cannot connect and realize that we are not the body, Aqimu salata is actually ascension. It is basically ascending from the world of materialism and the world of matter. So I realize that I can connect with something outside this world. When we pray, we start with what? We start after the intention, obviously. The intention is that I want to speak to God. I want to connect with God. Isn't that what niyyah is all about? And then we start our salat with what? Allahu Akbar. The literal meaning, God is greater. So the question is greater than what? Imam Zain al-Abidin alayhi salam, when he was asked, he said, Allahu Akbar min an yuqas. He's greater than to be compared. In other words, don't even put anything after it. You cannot put anything after it. You cannot say Allahu Akbar min kulli shay. Because if you're saying God is greater than everything, you are comparing him to everything, and he is not like anything. Therefore, when we say God is greater, he is greater than to even be comprehended or compared. We cannot even compare him. When we connect with God, when we realize in salat that we are above this world, I am not this man, the poet puts it beautifully. He says, I am the bird flying in the realm of angels. I am not some collection of dust. I am not a collection of dust. If I look at myself as a collection of dust, how am I different to anything, any animal or creature or being, or even any inanimate, any tree or tree lump, or this member here, or anything else? How am I different if that's what I see myself? No, I need to recognize my ruh and my insan, the human that I am, and that is when I ascend from this world. This is one connection. And then immediately Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says what? Back to basics, connection, and then وَآتُوا الزَّكَاةِ. Establish prayers and pay. If you recognize yourself as the human that you are above this world of matter, it would not be difficult to then detach from some of these material things that God has given you temporarily in this world. It's an amana in your hand. Some of it is yours, some of it is not even yours. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes the believers to say, وَفِي أَمْوَالِهِمْ حَقٌّ. They recognize that within their wealth that they have been given, there is a right for the people who are needy and people who have been deprived. They recognize that. They know it's a right. It's not an option. I can give charity or I can choose. No, a believer realizes that they're living temporarily here. We take what we need and our necessities. Beyond that, we help humanity, we help to the best of our ability. This is the connection, and these are the basic concepts that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala constantly reminds us of, and then that is what we need to in fact focus on as we travel towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, recognizing ourselves as salik or sa'ir ila Allah, a traveler towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant us the ability to recognize ourselves. Man arafa nafsah faqad arafa rabbah. Recognize who we are and what we are, and therefore travel towards Him, return to Him, purify in our journey to Him. We ask Him to make us amongst those who listen to what's said and follow what's best. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. صدق الله العلي العظيم. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين بارئ الخلائق أجمعين باعث الأنبياء والمرسلين، ثم الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الخلق وأعز المرسلين حبيب إله العالمين أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد. اللهم صل على محمد المصطفى وعلى علي المرتضى وفاطمة الزهراء وخديجة الكبرى والحسن المجتبى والحسين الشهيد بكربلاء وعلي بن الحسين زين العابدين ومحمد بن علي الباقر وجعفر بن محمد الصادق وموسى بن جعفر الكاظم وعلي بن موسى الرضا ومحمد بن علي التقي وعلي بن محمد النقي والحسن بن علي العسكري والحجة القائم القائم المهدي الإمام المنتظر صلوات الله عليهم أجمعين. اللهم وآل من والاهم وعاهد من عاداهم وانصر من نصرهم واخذل من خذلهم. اللهم اغفر للمؤمنين والمؤمنات والمسلمين والمسلمات الأحياء منهم والأموات. تابع اللهم بيننا وبينهم بالخيرات إنك مجيب الدعوات إنك على كل شيء قدير. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى. Dear mu'mineen and mu'minat, brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Once again, Jumu'ah Mubarakah upon everyone. In this second sermon, I remind myself and my brothers and sisters of the provision of taqwa. Usikum wa nafsi bi taqwallah fa innaha zadul mablagh. It is what we need to reach our destination, to be conscious of our duty to God and be dutiful in everything that we do, everything that we say, every reaction that we have, to make sure that we are most pleasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This week we will be commemorating and remembering the martyrdom of Imam Ja'far ibn Muhammad as-Sadiq alayhi salam, the sixth Imam from the Imams of Ahlul Bayt, the great-grandson of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi. This Imam, who in fact the school of Ahlul Bayt is often referred to as Ja'fari because of him, was a teacher of jurisprudence, a teacher of philosophy, a teacher of different fields of sciences, Islamic and also academic or scientific fields that he taught at his time. Many students were taught and under him. In fact, the jurists that in the Muslim world today are recognized, whether it be the four famous Imams, Abu Hanifa and Shafi'i and Malik and also the Ahmad ibn Hanbal, are either directly or indirectly students of this Imam, either studied directly under him or under students of his students. Salawatullah wa salamu alayhi. The Imam spread his knowledge to the Ummah, him and his father Imam Baqir alayhi salam. They spread so much knowledge in this Ummah that we are indebted to them. Islam and the Muslims are indebted to them in terms of Islamic teachings that we have, jurisprudence that we have today. From the basics of tahara and najasa and purification and what is pure and what is not pure, what is halal and what is not halal in food and drinks and other aspects of life, marriages and divorces, and many other fields, the Muslim Ummah are indebted surely to this Imam salawatullah wa salamu alayh, though some of them may not even recognize that they owe him. The Imams of Ahlul Bayt were generous in terms of giving without any conditions. They did not give conditional to you being one of his adherents or one of his followers. In fact, they conducted many classes and lessons across the Muslim world. Then the Imam would travel to Mecca at the time of Hajj and would hold classes and discussions. Some would come and debate him and he would debate them with no hesitation to teach them. And many of these debates are documented, and they are in fact some of the most valuable treasures that we have in the Muslim literature or the Islamic literature, and in terms of jurisprudence and as well as other fields, in terms of theology, in terms of debates with atheists. Believe it or not, and this is what I want to finish and conclude with, many of today's controversies that we face, whether it be on jurisprudential level or whether it be on the level of in terms of theology and faith, believing in the oneness of God, believing in God versus those who deny God as the creator, some believing in the world coming about by itself, as a series of coincidence or accidents, if you want, and many other debates that go on in today's world happened then already and were responded to. It is so sad that the world The Muslim world, as well as the rest of the world of humanity, is not fully aware or not well aware of these debates and discussions. It's not out there for many. They don't even know that it ever existed. Had they had them and had they reflected on them, we could have been advancing way more. In the first sermon, I said that the humanity is progressive, and it has progressed quite a bit. In the last few decades, we've probably progressed more than we have progressed in the last few centuries. We have been and we are progressing, which is, a lot of it is very positive. At the same time, in certain areas, had we had the teachings of Ahlul Bayt salawatullah wa salamu alayhim, and this is not because I am adherent to the school of Ahlul Bayt, this is because we're speaking of divinely inspired and taught individuals. The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is taught by God. Ahlul Bayt, they spread the knowledge from Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. They clearly stated that what we have is from Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Therefore, had we spread that knowledge, had we actually taken that and based off that expanded and spread that knowledge, we would have progressed as humanity multiple times more than what we have already. If today we have science and technology at a certain level and degree, we owe most of it to Anbiya Allah and Awsiya, the prophets and their successors. Most of it, if not all of it. I say most of it because indirectly they inspired all. Directly they taught most of it. Directly the Anbiya and Awsiya taught and led, and they were the pioneers in those fields, and from them indirectly their students and the rest of humanity progressed. Had we used those bases of truth that has no doubt within it, we would have progressed way more. And if we do it today, and this is what I want to finish with again, if today as the followers of Ahlul Bayt we use these treasures, we work on them, we work on translating them to languages that are more useful today in today's world, we work on spreading them, sharing them with the world could progress way more on every level, on humanity and spiritual levels, on ethical levels, on scientific levels, on every level you could imagine. We could advance and progress way more if we use the teachings of those whose knowledge is connected to the Creator, whose knowledge is inspired and taught and revealed to by the Creator of this universe, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant us the opportunity to increase in knowledge, وَقُلْ رَبِّ زِدْنِي عِلْمًا, to increase in knowledge constantly and spread the knowledge of those who are purified and inspired and taught by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We ask Him to make us amongst those who listen to what's said and follow what's best. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. صدق الله العلي العظيم.
أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن عليا وأولاده المعصومين حجج الله. حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح حي على خير العمل حي على خير العمل. قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة. الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله. الله أكبر. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يسبح لله ما في السماوات وما في الأرض الملك القدوس العزيز الحكيم، والذي بعث في الأميين رسولا منهم يتلو عليهم آياته ويزكيهم ويعلمهم الكتاب والحكمة وإن كانوا من قبل لفي ضلال مبين، وآخرين منهم لما يلحقوا بهم وهو العزيز الحكيم. ذلك فضل الله يؤتيه من يشاء والله ذو الفضل العظيم. مثل الذين حملوا التوراة ثم لم يحملوها كمثل الحمار يحمل أسفارا بئس مثل القوم الذين كذبوا بآيات الله والله لا يهدي القوم الظالمين. قل يا أيها الذين آمنوا إن زعمتم أنكم أولياء لله من دون الناس فتمنوا الموت إن كنتم صادقين ولا يتمنونه أبدا بما قدمت أيديهم والله عليم بالظالمين. قل إن الموت الذي تفرون منه فإنه ملاقيكم ثم تردون إلى عالم الغيب والشهادة فينبئكم بما كنتم تعملون. يا أيها الذين آمنوا إذا نودي للصلاة من يوم الجمعة فاسعوا إلى ذكر الله وذروا البيع ذلكم خير لكم إن كنتم تعلمون. فإذا قضيت الصلاة فانتشروا في الأرض وابتغوا من فضل الله واذكروا الله كثيرا لعلكم تفلحون. وإذا رأوا تجارة أو لهوا انفضوا إليها وتركوك قائما قل ما عند الله خير من اللهو ومن التجارة والله خير الرازقين. الله أكبر. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. ربنا أفرغ علينا صبرا وتوفنا مسلمين وصل على محمد وآله الطاهرين. الله سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده وصل على محمد وآل محمد. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. أستغفر الله. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. بحمد الله. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. كذلك الله ربنا. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. سمع الله لمن حمده. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب. وصل على محمد وآله الأطهار. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. أستغفر الله. الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. الحمد لله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. السلام عليك أيها النبي ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام علينا وعلى عباد الله الصالحين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. الحمد لله الأول قبل الإنشاء والإحياء والآخر بعد فناء الأشياء. عليم الذي لا ينسى من ذكر ولا ينقص من شكر ولا يخيب من دعا ولا يقطع رجاء من رجاء. اللهم اني اشهدك وكفى بك شهيدا واشهد جميع ملائكتك وسكان سماواتك وحملة عرشك ومن بعدك من انبيائك ورسلك وانشأت من اصناف خلقك اني اشهد انك انت الله لا اله الا انت وحدك لا شريك لك ولا عديل ولا خلف لقولك ولا تبديل. وأن محمدا صلى الله عليه وآله عبدك ورسولك أدى محمد دون العباد وجاهد في الله عز وجل حق الجهاد. وأنه بشر بما هو حق من الثواب وأنذر بما هو صدق من العقاب. اللهم ثبتنا على دينك ما أحييتنا ولا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة وعافية إنك أنت العزيز الوهاب. صل على محمد وآل محمد واجعلنا من أتباعه وشيعته واحشرنا في زمرته ووفقنا لأداء فرض الجمعات وما وجدت علينا فيها من الطاعات وقسمت لأهلها من العطاء في يوم الجزاء إنك أنت العزيز الحكيم برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. وصل اللهم على محمد وآل الطيبين الطاهرين.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. أشهد أن عليا وأولاده المعصومين بالحق حجة الله. حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح حي على خير العمل حي على خير العمل. قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة. الله أكبر الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله. الله أكبر. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الله أكبر. سبحان سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. استغفر الله. الله. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. بحول الله. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الله أكبر. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجه. رب اجعلني مقيم الصلاة ومن ذريتي ربنا وتقبل دعاء. ربنا اغفر لي ولوالدي وللمؤمنين يوم يقوم الحساب. وصل على محمد وآله الأطهار. الله. سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده. اللهم صل. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. استغفر الله. الله. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. الحمد لله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وتقبل شفاعته وارفع درجته بحول الله. الله. سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. استغفر الله. الله. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. بحول الله. الله. سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. استغفر الله. الله. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. يا لطيف ارحم عبدك الضعيف. الله أكبر. بسم الله وبالله. الحمد لله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. السلام عليك أيها النبي ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام علينا وعلى عباد الله الصالحين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الله 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 الله. الله الرحمن الرحيم إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. أستغفر الله ربي العظيم الحي القيوم الرحمن الرحيم ذي الجلال والإكرام، وأسأل أن يتوب علي توبة عبد دليل خاضع فقير بائس مسكين مستكين مستجيب لا يملك لنفسه نفعا ولا ضرا ولا موتا ولا حياة ولا نشورا. اللهم إنا نعوذ بك من نفس لا تشبع، ومن قلب لا يخشع، ومن علم لا ينفع، ومن صلاة لا ترفع، ومن دعاء لا يسمع. اللهم إنا نسألك اليسر بعد العسر والفرج بعد الكرب والرخاء بعد الشدة. اللهم ما بنا من نعمة فمنك لا إله إلا أنت. نستغفرك ونتوب إليك إنك أنت التواب الرحمن الرحيم. وصل اللهم على محمد وآل الطيبين الطاهرين.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
السلام عليك يا رسول الله. السلام عليك يا أمير المؤمنين. السلام عليك يا فاطمة الزهراء سيدة نساء العالمين. السلام على الحسن والحسين سيدي شباب أهل الجنة أجمعين. السلام على الأئمة من ولد الحسين علي بن الحسين ومحمد بن علي وجعفر بن محمد وموسى بن جعفر وعلي بن موسى ومحمد بن علي وعلي بن محمد والحسن بن علي والحجة القائم المهدي الإمام المنتظر صلوات الله عليهم أجمعين.
اللهم صل على محمد.
السلام عليكم.
الله